Hey guys, I am here, I guess I should say, at my new place. I haven't really picked a spot for me to sit, and the lighting's not so great here because there's lots of windows, which is not ideal in taping because all the weird lights and darkness, etc. Thank you for those of you who popped into my live on Sunday to see the $1,000 winner for the $1,000 contest giveaway that we do the first of every month. So thank you for checking in on that. Laura won, and she was nominated by her friend Jill. That they've been friends since the 9th grade, so that was cute. Some longtime friends, and she nominated her, so that was out in Stainer. Hi, Scotty. I don't have my live set up very well. Hi, Margie. It's quite dark, but anyways, we're gonna make do. Hi, Margie. Thank you for the love. So I'm gonna start with a question, and we'll do our norms. I hope you guys had a fun Halloween weekend with the kiddos and enjoyed today's warmth. It's crazy warm for November, so hopefully you guys had a good one. I don't know how to get this lower. I need to sit higher, but I'll get it sorted for next week. So the first question comes from Samantha, and Samantha is from Bradford. And Samantha said, before COVID, I worked in Newmarket, but was laid off. I like the idea of Barrie as it has so much going on, much more than Bradford, Newmarket, Holland Landing, etc. But do you guys really have the third highest rent in Canada? Thank you, Samantha, for asking. We did once have the third highest rent. I think now we're like sixth highest rent. So it used to be Toronto, Vancouver, Barrie, and now we're like sixth. So we're not as bad, but we still do have high rent. But if you have good credit and so forth, they're going to be looking at your job, so they're going to see that you were laid off because of COVID. So if you have good credit, that will still help. But obviously, in an ideal world, they're going to more look for somebody who has a job that doesn't matter if COVID, has a big wave again or what have you. So depending on what your budget is, it might be a place for you, or you could even move in the outskirts of Barrie. Like Essa, for example, is only like 10 minutes from Barrie, or you could be in Oro or Innisfil, etc. So thank you for writing in. So the first thing we're going to do is not do, but I cover, is not letting anybody stop you. So there was a girl, what was her name? Caitlin, and she was 29. And basically, she just graduated, and it was cold, even though it's hot today, so I have an extra layer. And she took her 17 rejection letters, and she made like a skirt out of it. So basically proving like, regardless of how many times you get rejected and so forth, to keep going forward. And whether it's 400 times, if that 401st time is the time that you get the yes, then that's all that matters. She just graduated from med school, and now she's a researcher at the University, I think it was Nebraska. Yeah, Nebraska. So that was what she wore. Her grad dress was all of the rejection letters she previously had for like scholarships and things like that. So do not give up. Hi, Robin. Hi, thanks, Kennedy. It's very dark, and it's not, I don't know how to figure out the lighting with all the windows, but I will figure it eventually. Hello, Shannon. How are you? Hope the kids had fun. I guess they wouldn't be. Your daughter's too old for Halloween, and your son might be too old too, but hopefully they had a good time. Okay, so next question is from Craig and Barrie. So just so you know, you guys can write in comments right now and ask or questions. And if I see them, I will answer them. If not, I will answer them next week. Or you can write them between now and next week, and then I will answer them next week. If I get too many, I will just reach out to you separately, okay? So Craig said, my sister and I own a home together, and I live there, and she lives at another property that she owns on her own. She wants me to move. Legally, do I have to? Craig, that's a little tricky because normally, when you give notice and you say, okay, the landlord or the landlord's family member's moving in, or we're doing major renovation or whatever, and then you give them 60 or 90 days notice, depending which one it is, but like they're signed by both landlords, and because you're a landlord, that makes it tricky. So hopefully you guys can just work it out, because I have not actually come across that. I know if you don't live there and you know how long it is to get tenants out and so forth, but when you're one of the tenants, that's a little trickier. So hopefully you guys can just work it out. I don't know if she just wants somebody else in there because she wants higher rent, so maybe you could just give her more rent, since it's like half hers, half yours. I'm not sure, but that's a little tricky, but thank you for asking. Okay. So before I do real estate, there's one thing, if the borders open up, when the borders open up, you guys, if you happen to be in Texas, should go to Austin. So this lady opened a farm, and it's called Safe in Austin, and her son has autism, and he got a dog, like a service dog, and basically she saw how well he did. So his service dog had, a missing limb or whatever. So basically she decided to buy a farm with her husband. They opened up this rehabilitation center basically for animals, and they allow anybody to come through, but they specifically not target, but suggest people come through that have disabilities or they have mental illness or past trauma or so forth. And then the animals, some of them have cerebral palsy, some of them had diabetes, some of them are blind, some of them are missing limbs or, disformed or so forth. And they just find that there's a real bond between them. And it's, called Safe in Austin. And they have 20 dogs, 14 cats, 8 cows, rabbits, 32 goats, 8 horses, and so forth. And a bunch of them are in little wheelchairs and stuff. And my dog was in a wheelchair back in the day. But if you guys are in Austin, you should check it out. Okay. So the next question is from Sabrina in Oro. So Sabrina says, I've watched every one of your $1,000 monthly giveaways thus far and love them. I was just curious, is this a COVID thing, till Christmas thing, or a forever thing? Sabrina, thank you for asking. I don't know, to be honest. It was just kind of something I decided to do, and I don't really know. We're doing November. I'm planning on doing December, January, whatever. I have no idea how long I will do it for. But you're welcome to nominate somebody for November. And even if you've nominated somebody for previous months, you're more than welcome to still nominate them or different people. As long as they live in Simcoe County. This past month, we got 2 people that didn't live in Simcoe County. It's okay if the people that nominate don't live in Simcoe County, but the winners have to live in Simcoe County. I'm not going to drive to Timmins to knock on somebody's door and drive all the way back. So they have to live in Simcoe County, okay? And be over the age of 18. Hi, Veronica. Hi, Justin. Thank you. Hi, Angel. Hi, Robin. Oops, I moved my camera. Darn big nails here. I'll use my thumb. Okay, so what do we have? One more thing and then I'll do real estate, okay? So obviously I'm sure majority of you are hopefully washing your hands more and sanitizing since all of this compared to last year. But one thing that many of us probably don't think about is homeless and them washing their hands. So there is a fellow, Terrence is his name, and he was homeless as a teenager. He's not a teenager anymore. And he started a thing called, what is it called? Love Beyond Walls. And basically it's a nonprofit that helps homeless people. And then since COVID, he started a thing called Love Sinks In. Sinks, wash your hands, sinks in. So basically now they're going around and they're putting out public hand washing stations. They're getting sanitized 3 times a day, just because he thinks not, and obviously believes, and as I'm sure many people do, that it's not just people who can afford sanitizer and afford soap that should be safe, and everybody should be safe. So that is again called Love Sinks In, and that is what he is doing. Okay, so hi Dakota. Real estate wise, I've had a lot of people message me about looking for a good renter in COVID. So normally there's different things, that you should look for, but specifically in COVID, if you can look for somebody that has a job that even regardless of what's going on with COVID, they're still going to have it. So, they're a nurse or I don't know, they're working at something that's going to be open, obviously. For example, Justin works at they do shipping, kind of like UPS, but it's not UPS, A&B Courier. So they're obviously always shipping regardless of COVID. So if you can get a tenant that works somewhere like that, then that's great. If you get a tenant that works at a restaurant and the restaurant closes, not very good. It's expected that 50% of restaurants will close during COVID. So not an ideal tenant, unfortunately, to have in there. Also check their credit because that shows the last 7 years. So even if they had a good job, were they behind on payments and so forth? So it just shows how quickly they're repaying and so forth. I'd also check their social media, which I've always done. Are they partying on all their social media? Are they like family on their social media? Some people say it's like privacy, but I feel like if it's an $800,000 house or even a $400,000 house, I'm going to creep it, and I don't care if it's an invasion of people's privacy, because we don't want to wreck our clients' houses or a property that I own or so forth. So we're going to check if they're up to no good. And then also when you're calling references, lots of times I feel like you're calling their family members or their friends or so forth. So if you know a realtor, doesn't have to be myself, but if you know a realtor and that realtor can check, so let's just say they say the landlord's name is Robin Smith, and you talk to Robin Smith, but really you're talking to their best friend because their landlord would tell you that they never pay their rent. So you're talking to Robin Smith, who's supposedly the landlord. I would just have some questions, like have some stuff from your realtor so they can say, okay, how long have you owned it, Robin? And they're like, they don't know because they don't actually own it. And if they happen to randomly know or they get it close, how much did you pay? And they're like, oh, I paid $450, but meanwhile they paid $280 or something like that. Just to make sure that you're actually talking to the right person is handy. And same with if it's their job and you find out, okay, this person works for you, and then they say, okay, what's their social insurance number, or how much do they make an hour, or maybe some things that their friends might not know about them, okay? So that's kind of like a general, so what we would do for tenants. A lot of people have asked me too a lot lately about flipping because a lot of people are like, I'm bored during COVID, I want something to do, so they want to flip. So people always say like location, 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 which is true. Even if the house seems like super perfect, but it's next to, not to be rude, but a mobile home or a mobile park home, or a dump or a train track or somewhere known for a lot of drugs is not necessarily ideal, obviously, for flipping. So just make sure you know your locations so you don't get stuck with a lemon, okay? Some main things that people do mistake-wise in flipping is they think of it's as easy as TV. But on TV, they often don't show. Sometimes they show like, okay, this happened and there was termites or whatever, but they don't always show that. So just always have an extra buffer put in there. I said about location, so make sure you pay attention to location. And then try to cater to a specific buyer. So if it's in a retirement home, not retirement home, but retirement community, don't buy the one house that has the bedroom upstairs and no bedroom on the main floor. Or if it's a family community, and it's only a 3-bedroom, don't turn it into a 1-bedroom with a massive walk-in closet and a massive ensuite because it's all families in there. So just try and do, what you think is requested basically from the buyers in that area. And just because, somebody in that neighborhood is listed for $800,000 doesn't mean you can get $800,000 because 1, they haven't sold. And 2, you might not be the same house as them, but try and go off of solds as opposed to actives. So check the actives and solds. Just because you put a $50,000 kitchen in doesn't mean you're going to get $50,000 back or $80,000 or $100,000, etc. Okay? So that's just like doing your homework. Try not to bring your feelings into it. So a lot of people, get emotionally tied to it, but this is a business transaction. Okay, if you do get into flipping, this is not like where you have your ruler on the wall and you've measured your kids' heights their whole life. It is a business transaction, so try not to get your emotions in it because usually when you have your emotions in it, you tend to overpay for a property, okay? So try not to do that. Try and stick to your budget. So a lot of people are kind of like shiny object syndrome. So they had like $10,000 set aside for all the bathrooms, and then they go into this place and they see this vanity that's so crazy, and they see this and they see that, and they end up spending $35,000. Just because you spend the $35,000 doesn't mean they're going to pay for it. So go off of your original budget. If it was $10,000 and you spend $12,000, not obviously a big deal, especially if you have that buffer built in. But try and stay to your budget because just because you pay for it and put it in doesn't mean somebody else will pay for it on the other side. Try not to make it so personal. I had a fellow, he was down in like Machu Picchu, and he had like this out-of-body experience, he said, and he paid for the church where he was to have like the pew shipped back to Ontario, and he made this whole bathroom around this pew, and it was like a spa-like, but he spent over I forget it was $12,000 on it, and basically that's so specific. Try not to be specific. Try and think of the general masses, what they're going to like, not, the 1% what they're going to like, okay? And don't forget your money. So basically you have your land transfer tax when you buy it. You have your lawyer's fees on both ends. You have to hold it, so you have to pay the mortgage that whole time. You have to pay to break your mortgage unless you're in an open mortgage. And then you have to pay your fees at the end, so your real estate fees or what have you. And you also have to pay capital gains. So just don't forget any fees. And then you're like, oh, I forgot I had to pay a mortgage for 4 months, and I forgot this and that. And then it's an extra 18,000. You were only going to make 25,000, and then it's really cutting into your profits. So make sure you don't forget your numbers. Hi, Sarah. Hi, Leanne. Hi, Mike. Really? I think the lighting looks awful, Melissa, but thank you. Oops. And my nails are not good either. Oh my goodness. Hi, Art. Okay. Okay, back to real estate. So basically for immigration and stuff in 2021, they're planning on 1.2 million people immigrating, not in 2021, but that is their plan. And the reason I'm telling you that is just because it affects real estate. So they're supposed to have 400,000 every year, 2021, 2022. I missed, 2023. I didn't miss a year. But 1.2 in the next 3 years. So basically what they're expecting, the main thing to happen from that is for the condos to go back up in Toronto. So if you own a Toronto condo and you're like, oh, it's going down right now, and because of all the Airbnbs that can't rent anymore, to the exchange students and the visitors coming from Europe and so forth, if you can hold on until next year when all of these people come to Toronto and so forth, I would do so, okay? There also, but there was 321,000 people that came to Canada in 2019, which was the highest in over 115 years, and now 400,000 expected for next year. So basically everybody that studies real estate and they give all of their analytics and so forth, they're saying the only place the real estate market can go is up, which is great. The only place that's expected to go down is commercial property. So it's just more like the mom and pop shops. If, for example, they can't afford to have their business or their business goes under, or if they just own the one building and their tenants don't pay them and they can't afford to pay it without the tenants, then that is when they're in trouble, and then people can go in and scoop it up, unfortunately. Also, just in regards to like millennials and stuff and new hot areas, a lot of people, it's always been Toronto in the past, but people have actually been going to like Collingwood and Barrie and so forth because millennials are working from home more now. Before COVID they were a bit, and then now like they're really working from home a lot. So they're seeing more, where do they want to live? What do they want to pay? What makes sense for them? Does it make sense to pay, $875,000 for a house that needs $300,000 worth of work when there's not much going on in the city or so forth? So a lot of them are moving up to Barrie and, like I said, Collingwood. So Gary Silverman, who is the fellow that's doing the 2 towers downtown Barrie on Dunlop Street, he's basically said that Barrie is like the exact, I forget his exact words, what was it called? Perfect mix of urban and nature. That's what he said. So there's 237 units in each building. And so the 6 kilometers like of Barrie's waterfront is going to change so much because they're putting $2.9 billion, the government, into Barrie's waterfront and the area, which is crazy, but good for Barrie and myself and you guys out there, assuming that you live around Barrie. So that is good. And what else was I going to say? The 6 kilometers. Oh yeah, they think that it's going to bring 210,000 new residents to Barrie in the next decade, and 129,000 new jobs. So that is fantastic. Some people have asked me quite a few times actually in the past couple of weeks, like, why is the demand so high right now? So the money is cheap for them to get into a house or get into a condo. The interest rate is so low. They also don't have the competition from the foreign buyers, so they're not against like the Chinese buyers with all the money. They're not against whoever that has maybe deeper pockets than they do. And as well, there's not all the people that have immigrated to Toronto, so there's not as many people right now that are buying as per normal, so they're still scooping up properties, and they know that the market, like I said, is going to go up, so they're just scooping up now while they can afford to, as opposed to paying higher premiums later. Then people said like, well, what happens when there's a vaccine and so forth, and immigration comes back and what have you. So all of the analytics and what they're saying is that it's going to be so much pent up buyer demand from overseas that it will, like I said, skyrocket, not skyrocket per se, but go up continuously, not like 80% or anything like skyrocket. So that's what they're predicting once there's a vaccine or just once immigration starts next year. So that is good for everybody that already owns a property. If you do not own a property yet, that is not ideal for you, and I apologize. What else was I going to say? That was kind of it. Hi, Dad. Hi, Tammy. Hi, Courtney. Hi, Ivy. Hi, Sarah. Hi, Leanne. Okay. So next I have a question from Jocelyn and Brandon in Wasaga. So Jocelyn and Brandon wrote, I know you have spoken before about people not waiting for retirement to do their bucket list and their dreams, etc. But do you think with COVID we should tighten up our belt, so to speak, and not be doing so much right now with so much uncertainty? Jocelyn and Brandon, thank you for writing in. To be honest, I don't know where you're doing all these fun things because there's not that much going on. So it's not like you can go, normally you can go like online and check out cool things to do in Ontario or Toronto or what have you. And basically everything's like all online. So I don't know where you're planning on spending all the money. It's not like you're flying across the world or anything. But yeah, I would definitely much more have a nest egg now than maybe in the past you might have had, just so you're prepared in case something were to, happen and you say there's not help from the government or you can't move in with your parents or so forth. So I think it's taught us many things, but one thing is to have more saved than, we had in the past, and people had lived so much paycheck to paycheck. So people are like more selling off things that they have, maybe reusing things that they have, buying secondhand, getting a roommate to help pay for things, maybe calling around for car insurance and maybe going from $380 a month to $280 a month and just kind of save wherever they can to just help with their budget, cut out maybe some memberships that they haven't used in a year and so forth. So I do think it's a good idea to save where you can. And then even if you just do, like I've noticed a lot of people are getting out and they're hiking more and they're going up to waterfalls and they're going up to these trails and just exploring Ontario more, and that's obviously free. So you could do lots of bucket list things that are not as expensive. So maybe you could check out those, but thank you for asking. Okay, so there was a 12-year-old who called 911, which you might say like, okay, well, he had an emergency. So this boy lost his teddy bear. He has autism, and basically when he called them and told them about his teddy bear, and he hung up, but it's their protocol that then they come out to the house if somebody hangs up. So instead of the police officer saying like, you use this improperly, and that's not what the service is for, the police officer helped him look for his teddy bear until they found it. So I just thought it was a cute story. So P.S. next week, I'm going to go over all of the statistics like Simcoe and so forth. There was just so many this week and so much other stuff that people had asked me questions about. I couldn't really cover it all, and I didn't really feel like doing 90 minutes. So I will cover the rest of that next week. Okay, so this question is from Melissa in Stroud. So Melissa said, I have a really small house, like less than 700 feet. Do you think it's better I move to my boyfriend's while I sell it and put stuff in storage so it looks bigger? Thank you, Melissa, for asking. I wouldn't do that just because a lot of people are visual and they can't visualize it, and they're like, could we fit a couch here? Is there room for a little two-seater couch or two-seater table here, or it's not big enough, or can I fit a queen size or only a twin or a double, or can I fit a king? So if you have stuff there, I would keep it. But for example, when I just sold my place like a week and a half, 2 ago, it closed. I literally took 2 trailers of stuff out of it before I listed it, and I did not make it vacant. It still looked like somebody lived there because I just had so much stuff. So you might need to take some stuff out so people don't feel like it's cluttered. So maybe you can just make it so the closets are cleaner. You don't obviously want to bump into things. Maybe like some extra side tables you can remove, some extra coats out of the closet, maybe some extra chairs and so forth that you don't need, just so it appears bigger. If you have any bulky furniture, maybe you could remove some pieces, maybe armoires or so forth. But I would still have furniture in there, okay? I wouldn't have it vacant, but thank you for asking. Hi, Jared. Hi, Mel. I hope everybody's well. Hi, Jasmine. You have the same last name as the girl that won on the weekend. I don't know if you are related to the winner, the $1,000 winner. Oh, thanks, Melanie. Hi, Stefano. Steph makes delicious pizza. It's P_ZZA, and it's downtown Barrie and on Cundles, and it's delicious. I actually have one frozen right now in my freezer, but it's delicious, frozen or fresh. Okay, so the next was it a question? No, we just did a question. Oh yeah, so a check was just dropped off to a hospital, which sounds kind of normal, but it was $1 million, and it was given anonymously. And basically the only thing the person said was they wanted it divided equally between everybody that worked there. So his letter specifically said, I said his, it could be a her, I have no idea. The person's letter specifically said, "Thank you for standing up and staying up to care for our community. This human kindness is what makes heroes." So this hospital divided it amongst everybody that had worked there in the past year, because that was another thing kind of in like brackets that the person had written it. They have to work here in the past year. They can't have worked here 25 years ago. So all of the full-time employees are getting an extra $800, and all of the part-time employees are getting an extra $600. So that was very kind of whoever did that. So back to a question. We have Jake from Barrie. So Jake says, I rent a bay in a commercial building and do breaks, etc. I know it's thought commercial will come down, but I haven't seen that yet. Am I missing something? Thank you, Jake, for asking. You're not missing anything. The hard thing is that a lot of commercial properties, for example, like where our office is, the person owns 600 strip malls. So not 600 units, which is still a crazy amount, 600 full strip malls. And it's like the great-grandchildren, basically. They started up in Sudbury or something. And they have, obviously, oodles of money. So COVID is not going to affect them. So they're not going to lower their price. It's more the people that own like 1 to 5 commercial properties, and they might have to sell off 1 or 2 or 3 during this time if people aren't paying their rent, or if they, tenants move out or so forth. Those are the ones that possibly could get scooped up. We had one the other day out in Coldwater, which is not common for commercial properties. But our buyer got it, so it was listed for $1 million. They got it for $810, and the buyers had just bought it last year for 1.1. So there is the odd property that not is a big massive thing that, again, somebody owns 600 of them. They're not going to do that. But if they only own a few, that is when we're going to see some commercial prices, depending on how long they can hold on to it. So you might get in somewhere. I don't know if you're looking to rent or buy. But if you're looking to rent, you just have to be somewhere where the people don't own multiple of them. And if you're looking to buy, same thing, that they don't own multiple, okay? But thank you, Jake, for asking. And then, okay, so obviously a bunch of you know about fires in California and Fresno, etc. So there was a little girl that her home burnt down. She was 9. And this fellow, Kevin, heard about it. And the little girl collects baseball cards, and she has like over 100 baseball cards and plays baseball. And the fire department posted pictures of the little girl playing baseball and her card collection. And they just said if anybody in the neighborhood has any cards and they could donate them to this little girl, it would be greatly appreciated. They thought they might get like 20 to 30. And this one fellow, like I said, Kevin, who didn't even live in California, he lived in Texas. He had been collecting cards since 1990, early 90s, and he has over 25,000, and he had them shipped to her house just to put a smile on her face. So that was super cute. So anyways, I again will give all of the statistics next week, more so full on real estate. Thank you for joining me, and I will figure out better lighting, and so I'm not so low. I feel like I'm sitting really low. Anyways, be kind to one another. Have a great evening. Bye, guys. My finger won't touch the finish button.